All right, guys. Let's do lesson 5 now. Don't forget to subscribe.
In this lesson, we're going to add the event handler for when any of the operator buttons is pressed by the user. So basically, if the user types in addition, subtraction, multiplication, or division operators, what exactly happens? Now, before we actually start coding, we need to understand what exactly happens behind the scenes in a calculator when the user starts typing the digits and the operators. Now, let's say the user is intending to type the sum 15 plus 10 is equal to 25. Now, typically, what the user will do is the user will type in 15 and then the user will type in plus. Now, that plus is not displayed on the screen, but it's stored somewhere in the memory of the computer. So the computer or the calculator app knows that the user has pressed plus. From that point, what happens next? The user will start typing. And you'll notice, as with any calculator, that when you hit one of the operators and then you start typing the next number that you're going to be operating on, it replaces the first number. So basically, the 10 will take the place of the 15 on your screen. Now, what's happened to the 15? The 15 is actually stored in memory somewhere, in the memory of the computer or of the device. Now, from that point forward, the user will click equals to, and then the app will spit out the answer. But for now, we're not going to focus on the equals to part. We're just going to focus on what happens when the user clicks plus and then starts typing the next digit. So essentially, three things happen. First, the on-screen value is stored in memory. That means in this scenario, the 15 is stored somewhere in the computer's memory. Next, the app will remember what operator the user had clicked. And finally, the screen is clear so that when the user starts typing the next digit, it starts on a brand new clean screen. Now let's see what happens. The user types 15 first, and then the plus. Now what happens is that the 15 is stored into a variable. We're going to call that variable value 1. And then when the user clicks on plus, we're going to store the plus into a variable called operator. And then the user will start typing into a new line on the screen. Hence, do you remember that variable we created called new line? We're going to set that guy to true. That means that whatever the user starts typing next is going to appear on a new line. So let's start coding. The first thing we'll do is to create a couple of new variables. So the first variable I'm going to create is value 1. And I'm not going to assign any value. To it right now. The next variable I'm going to create, we'll call it current operator. And again, I'm not going to assign any value to it. Next, we're going to create the event handler function. We'll call this one operator button.
And then
Call this one operator. And again, I'm not going to assign any value to it. Next, we're going to create the event handler function.
Yeah, it's getting tougher now. Remember the days we used to type hello everyone? Those days are over now.
We'll call this one operator button pressed. Now this function receives a parameter, and that parameter will hold the actual operator button that the user has pressed, the value of the operator button. Okay, so inside that function one,
Okay.
the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take the value that's stored inside the operator parameter and store it into the current operator variable. So we'll say current operator is equal to operator. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to assign a value to value 1. Now what goes into value 1? Remember, the value that's stored currently on screen, whatever the user has typed currently on screen, will be stored into value 1. Now how do we do this? We do this by getting the value of getElement by ID. Remember the guy that's storing the value. What is the ID?
Did he just say element?
Screen. Whatever the user has typed currently on screen will be stored into value 1. Now how do we do this? We do this by getting the value of getElement by ID. Remember the guy that's storing the value. What is the ID? Input box. So whatever is the value stored inside input box, we're going to use in here. Now, there's just one issue with this line. This line is definitely grabbing whatever value is on the display at the present moment. But the one issue is that value is going to be stored as text, not as numbers. You remember in our previous lessons we discussed the differences between digits being displayed as text and digits being displayed as numbers. Now what we're going to need to do is to convert this text into a number. Now how do we do that? Remember the parseInt function? We're going to use that one. So we'll put that one right up here in front. So I'm going to type in parseInt and I'm going to put in open brackets there and close brackets right at the end before the semicolon. Now let's try and make sense of this code. Value 1 is equal to parseInt, that means convert into an integer everything that's within these two brackets. And what's inside the two brackets? This one should say document dot get element by ID input box dot value. That means grab whatever is stored on the display screen of the calculator right now, convert it into an integer.
I knew. This guy. I knew he's an elementary. But ke document. Sometimes ezinye izinto you must just follow because ungafanga uba uyalungisa kanti no awulungisi uyamosha yabo. So kumnandi ke that he saw his mistake.
Which we're going to set to true. Fantastic. Now that we've
Then we have a new lines equal to true.
created our event handler, let's add the event. Let's go back to the top of our code and
Let's add the event. Damn guys, I did all this. Like all this.
and look for the plus. Let's start with the plus. Okay, so we're going to give it an event. We'll say on click is equal to. Let's just copy the name of our function.
Okay. So copy the name of the function. Control C. I think for the next lesson, the next lesson is the second last. I'm gonna do the same thing I did on the last week's lesson. I'm just gonna consolidate them to save time on my side.
And paste it in there. On click is equal to that. Operator button pressed, and inside there we'll pass the parameter plus.
Control S. Me, I save every time when I do changes.
The symbol plus on our keyboards. Let's save this and refresh it in our browser.
Okay, let's do that. I did save it. Go refresh.
Browser, let's refresh and then start typing. 15 plus. Now, as expected, nothing happens when you click plus because that plus is stored somewhere in memory. Now let's see what happens when I start typing the next digit. Fantastic. So you saw what happened? When I clicked on plus, my app knew that the 10 is a new number, so it needs to start in a new line. So the event handler for our operators is complete. The next thing we need to do is to add the event for the remainder of the operators. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this event, the plus event, on click is equal to plus,
and paste it
and I'm going to paste it for every one.
Okay, let's do that. See, I just posted this. It's okay. Where's my VS Code? Okay. Control C. and then we'll come and paste it over here. Control V, and then inside here we'll put a 1 negative sign.
Of my operators. Remember to change the parameter also. If you don't change the parameter, then every operator will simply do a plus operation. So that was the minus. There's your multiplication.
Let's do the multiplication. Control V. I'm not sure if we are going to put star or like the multiplication here. Yeah, okay, we're gonna put star. Guess I was right.
Division is right there at the bottom.
Control S.
Next to AC.
And then just go Control V. And then we add division. And then I will save Control S same time.
Okay, now that we've got these, let's do a quick test. Obviously, it's not going to test the actual operator, but it's going to test if the event handler function is actually firing. In the browser, I refresh.
8, 2.
Let's start with times. There we go. Fantastic.
Okay.
Clear the screen.
Okay.
Minus. Fantastic. Clear the screen.
Minus.
We've already tested plus, so we're going to just test the division. Fantastic. Seems to work.
Fantastic.
And we're on our way to almost completing this app.
Okay, let's just do this here. Okay, after that was the third last episode lesson. Okay, fantastic. Everything is working. I'll see you on the next episode. I think the next lesson is lesson 6. I'll see you in lesson 6.